As promised, everyone, we have started the Stargate Grand Marathon watch through, and we kicked things off with episode 1 of Stargate SG-1, Children of the Gods. And you might be asking, why didn't you start with the film? Well, the film is a good starting point, but I've seen the film like 20 times over the years. I love the film. But in terms of the show, we are dealing with pretty much new characters, although there is some mythology that carries over from the film. And that's what I really want to focus on is the mythology of the show as opposed to the mythology of the film. So we're going to be starting with episode 1 of season 1 of Stargate SG-1 in this, which is a recap slash review slash just me having watched the show once years and years and years ago and now coming back and rewatching it as we work our way towards the new show that was announced to be coming down the pipeline from Amazon. We are going through all of SG-1, Atlantis, and Universe, so stick around. We got a long road ahead of us with 350 plus episodes and the films. So, um, I forgot that this show aired on Showtime, and I actually remember watching this in, I guess it was 1997. I would have been 17 years old when this started airing. Um, Now I feel old because I'm 45, almost 46. Um, And I remember watching this at my aunt and uncle's house because they had Showtime. And I remember my uncle being a huge fan of the film. I loved the film, and then we started watching this. And I had also forgot that that this episode had nudity in it, which I forgot, which I don't remember that being anywhere else in the show. Probably just because it was the pilot episode. It was Showtime. Showtime at the time was well known for being, racy. Um, anyway, we get introduced to our cast of characters, including Richard Dean Anderson as Colonel Jack O'Neill, Michael Shanks as Dr. Daniel Jackson, Amanda Tapping as Dr. Samantha Carter, aka Captain Samantha Carter, Christopher Judge as Teal'c, and Don S. Davis as Major General George Hammond. Sorry. Now, what's really interesting to me coming back and looking at this is, if I remember correctly, everything they shot from here on out was in Vancouver. And this is going to be where, because there are people out there who know way more about Stargate than I do, the shows. We had somebody who was commenting on the video the other day that were like, "I've watched all the extra features and blooper reels. I've not seen any of that stuff." So this may be where as I get through, what I might do is, and we'll talk about this in greater detail. I know I want to do like a season 1 recap at the end of watching season 1. What I might also do is whenever I finish up with season 1 is go back and watch like the blooper reels and the behind the scenes cuts and glean extra information from those, which I haven't seen. I don't want to do it before I watch the episodes because I don't want to like spoil things for myself because I don't remember much of anything, to be honest with you. I remember vague plot lines, but that's about it. So we get introduced to all the main characters. We pick up roughly a year, I think is what I understand, from when the film took place, and we see the Stargate in the bottom of a storage facility at Cheyenne Mountain, and there's a group of soldiers, and this reminded me of like low level, like second or third level Dungeons and Dragons characters from a D&D campaign, like sitting around playing poker, right? Guarding the gate that's never been opened, and they're down here because they're kind of NPC schmucks, right? And then all of a sudden, there's a breeze, and one of the guards, which is the girl, is like, "Hey, did you hear that?" And everybody's like, "Oh, you're imagining things." And then, "Oh, did you hear that?" No. And then suddenly, whoosh, the gate activates, and out steps. What we come to find out later is one of the other gods, um, and this is where we get introduced to uh, the the uh, the the gold and the parasites, the Jaffa. There's a whole bunch of terminology that comes into this, and this is where I'm going to have to be getting up to speed on the terminology all over again. But essentially, Apophis is the name of the alien god who has come to Earth seeking hosts, and they grab the blonde girl and take her back and disappear through the gate. This prompts the general, who has been essentially at this point from the conversation that the guards are giving us, there's been nothing. The Stargate program is dead. It's just been sitting there for the past year because they went through, they saw. Jack O'Neill told a story about the gate being blown up, and then it just has been collecting dust since then. And but now it's been activated, and the guards are talking about how like everybody's been being shipped out of Cheyenne Mountain, and the base is essentially being shut down. And this is General Hammond's last tour of duty, um, as we find out, because he summons retired Colonel Jack O'Neill back because of this Stargate. And he says, I'm on my last tour of duty, and what do you know about the Stargate program? And tell me more about your report. And oh, you destroyed Raw, yes. And you destroyed the gate, yes. And you destroyed all the people, yes. Yeah, that's exactly what happened, says Jack O'Neill. And then he sees that the general is, well, you sounds good, but just to be safe, we're gonna send this nuke through the Stargate to make sure that whatever's on the other side is destroyed. Um, Using the same gate address because at this point they don't know that the gates can go everywhere, right? So this makes Jack go, actually, Colonel, I may have fibbed just a little bit. And I think this is one of the major distinctions where I'm glad they made Richard Dean Anderson's version of the character much different than the Kurt Russell version of the character in the film. A, he doesn't smoke anymore. Um, and two, we get that dry RDA humor, which we love from this and MacGyver and other, things that we've seen him in. Um, so he's like, General, and this is when he reveals that, well, Daniel actually stayed behind with the people. And we did blow up Raw, but we didn't blow up the gate. But to bury the gate, no one should be coming through. They want to send a probe through, and Jack's like, I got a better idea. And I like that he takes the tissue box and sends it through the gate because he's like, if this way, Daniel will know it's from me. And he sends it back, and it says, please send more. And they go through, and they meet up with Daniel, and we find Daniel has married a local girl, Sharae. We have the same actor coming back from the film to play Skara, the little kid who is obsessed with um, Colonel Jack O'Neill's lighter and saluting and everything. I think he's the only returning cast member, if I'm not mistaken, from the film over into the show. And we then realize that Daniel's been living here. Whoever came through the gate did not come through from this side. And then Daniel reveals to them this, I guess, map room that he has found, which has all of these 7 chevron coordinates all around the room. But uh, Sam is like, well, we've tried like hundreds of combinations with the computers, and none of them have ever worked. And they start discussing about how, well, maybe there's stellar drift to account for, and that's like, okay, well, we're going to go back to the base and we're going to put that data into the computers. And I think they said we should be able to get 2 or 3 per month, is I think what they say that the computers are going to spit out. When they get back. Now, in the midst of all of this, they get attacked by Raw and his Jaffa, who capture more people from here and take them back, including Skara and Sharae. And this is when we see the reveal of like the worm, the creature that lives inside, the larva that gives them their immortality. And the whole process here of changing hosts. Of course, Sharae gets taken over. She becomes a host for Apophis's wife, and Skara also gets taken as a host. In the process of them, um, them getting captured, going back to Earth, realizing they need to start going on this adventure to find Daniel's wife, to find Sharae and Skara, and using the information they found from the gates, realizing that there's many other gates now, and the potentially. This is where, for our pilot episode, the 17-year-old me was in awe of this. The 46-year-old me, 45-year-old me, I'll be 46 next month. I'm getting ahead of myself. Was like kind of there was some mental gymnastics that were made in this episode. Um, like, you know how there's that thing of show don't tell, but they definitely were telling as opposed to showing here. Um, for example, when they were in the map room and they're supposing that, well, surely an advanced civilization would have been able to account for stellar drift, but we're going to have to use our computers to figure it out. And I was like, wait a second though, how are the if the Goa'uld are using the gates, they've obviously what? I'm confused by that. And the other one is when they're sitting at the table and Daniel is just making these wild jumps of logic of like, well, it must have been this other character must have been another, of the same race as Raw, and there must be more of them, and there must be, and I'm just like, you're not wrong, but that's a wild leap. But you kind of have to, I guess, establish that in the pilot episode to bring the user along for the journey. Um, I think personally, if I had written that, I would have saved that reveal for later on, have it be something that they discover midway through the season. But no, they threw it right out there that, and as opposed to it being something they find out, it was Daniel making this wild leap of logic, which turns out to be correct. Quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi-streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand. Um, be that as it may, um, they go to this planet. They're met by some locals. They end up realizing that there's a bunch of prisoners here. They're being selectively chosen to be hosts, male, female, and a child, and everybody else is going to be killed. And as this is all going on, we meet Teal'c for the first time, and you could definitely tell that he is not happy with what's going on. And Jack's character, O'Neill's character, picks up on this through casual side glances, lots of side glances, lots of like, I know that he's suffering. I know that he wants to betray them. I know that he's going to help us, to the point when, everybody's getting shot. He's like, help us, we can save them. And Teal'c is like, I've heard that many times before, but you're the first one, I believe. And then he turns around and he fires on his fellow Jaffa and helps them escape. But I think he's prompted, by realizing, I think it's a moment when he grabs O'Neill's wrist and he looks at the watch and he's like, "What technology is this? This is not Goa'uld technology. Where are you from?" And I think it's his first moment of realizing that, oh my goodness, there are people out there who have advanced enough that they aren't just like cattle. And he's obviously been suffering under them for quite some time, not happy with his role and where he's going. So he ultimately helps them escape, and they all make it out through the gate, taking these refugees back to home base. And another little plot thing that made me chuckle was they go back through the gate, and after they go back through the gate, they close the they have like a metal cover, and they close it. And the guys who were in pursuit, you can hear them hit the other side like boom, 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 and then they shut down the gate. They open that portal back up, and there's no remains left on the ground. And I was like, wouldn't there have been, because they came through the gate because they hit the physical surface of the start of the metal portal, so they had to have come through the gate to hit the metal, and then in between that space would have been sloshy remains that hit the ground. There were no remains on the ground, and I was like, it's okay. It's a TV show. We'll get over it. Uh, and Sam making the observation to the Major General that we have these gate addresses. We can help all these people get back to their original homes. And obviously the general is pissed off about Teal'c, because he sees what Teal'c is, and an enemy. But Jack's like, no, he saved my life. He must be one of the team. And from a strategic standpoint, it makes sense. But my goodness, talk about um, a leap of trust right away out of the gate. And of course, I had forgotten all about Kowalski getting the worm in his head. Right at the last minute, right before they all escape through the gate, one of the dying Gaul, the worm jumps out, like attaches itself and goes into him. I had forgotten that he gets converted, and that's where the fade to black happens. Is he turns around from the Starbait and walks towards the camera, and his eyes glow, and you're like, oh, the plot is thickened because now we have one of them on the inside on Earth, and they're going to be learning all about us. Um, some things I can look back on. Obviously, this is 1997, right? So this was made in the mid 90s. Special effects for the time were good. They are pretty dated by now. Um, you could definitely tell that some of the sets were sets as opposed to locations. Um, it's the budget of its times. I think in looking at it in modern light, you just have to realize that this is dated. Um, the staff weapons look great though, even after all this time. But the ships definitely look. It's kind of like going back and watching Babylon 5. If you've ever gone watch Babylon 5 or Star Trek: The Next Generation, great shows, great writing. Deep Space Nine, any of these older science fiction shows, phenomenal stories, phenomenal acting, phenomenal writing. The sets look a little bit dated. The special effects definitely look a little bit dated, and that's where we're going with this. Um, so as long as you understand that, I think and you're fine with that, and you're fine with the fact that this is a show that's not taking itself too seriously. This is obviously science fiction, but it's not hard sci-fi. This is an action adventure show. And the pilot episode, which was basically 2 episodes back to back, it's an hour and a half long, called Turtle to the Gods. It's entertaining, and that's all you want from a pilot episode because it gets you in, it introduces you to the characters, gives you the lay of the land, and you know that you're in for a romp. Something I had forgotten um, in the back of my mind was this goes back to when they used to do 22 to 25 episodes of a show, right? Which is a lot. And I'll be honest, I much prefer the modern version of things where we get like I like the 12 like 10 to 13. I like the 10 to 13 episode runs because it allows them to tell a tight story arc. I think that 6 is too short. 8 can sometimes work, but I still feel it's too short. But I really do like that 10 to 12, 13 mark. Maybe even 16. Outlander has done a couple of seasons where they did like 16, 17 episodes, and I think that those work pretty well. I know with 22 to 24, you end up having a lot of filler episodes where it's like episode of the week, monster of the week, planet of the week. And I do remember that being something here because there is an overarching story that we go through. But like obviously one is we have to find Share and Skara. I mean Daniel's on a mission to find his wife. I do remember how that ends vaguely. Um, so I know that there's that. I remember we eventually meet Teal'c's master or the guy who trained him, the old man who's in everything now, whose name I can't remember off the top of my head, but he's like in Jedi Fallen Order and so many games that I play. Anyway, great first episode. In for a penny, in for a pound. This is the beginning of a long rewatch journey. So we're going to be doing this. I'll try to do as many as I can. I can't guarantee that I'm going to do one every single day, but I'm going to try to do as often as I can. The plan is to try to do, um, if I can do one a day, that'll be great. I don't know if I'll be able to do one a day. I'm going to try. We'll see how it goes. But we're starting with this one. I had to split this into 2 parts. I watched half of it yesterday and the other half today. And hopefully you'll stick around for the rest as we continue onwards to episode 2 of season 1 of Stargate SG-1 and everything that lies beyond. Stay safe, everyone. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update, and check out all the other things that happen here on the channel because it's a lot. This is the day job. See you next time.